And we're live. Or if you're listening to this on Spotify or YouTube or what is it, Apple, then we're not live anymore.
But I hope you enjoyed the jingle.
But I hope you enjoyed the jingle because that's the only place you can listen to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Trying to Keep Up with Allison and Nilo. We have a very special guest here today with us. Not that, I mean, every single one of the people that we have on here are like amazing. But this is no exception because Vaishnav is going to be talking with us. She also, we added Fraps to our name because we wanted to make Nilo feel a little, knock him down a peg. I don't know.
You made one.
A little bit. Just. So Jay, welcome. And why don't you tell us what you did at FDA, what you're doing now, and tell us about what Fraps means.
Sure. So Fraps, let's start with Fraps, and I want everybody to apply next year. Yeah. So a fellow of the Regulatory Affairs Professional Society, which is a nonprofit that just does all things regulatory, and it's a great way to connect to people who are outside your organization and talk about all things regulatory and nerd out. So yeah, So what did I do at FDA? I was in radiology almost all of my time there, and I was mostly working on CT devices, and it was kind of cool because AI was coming up during that time. So we saw the early wave of that and of computer-assisted diagnostics and things. And then I was there about 7.5 years, and it's now OHT8. And then I moved to industry. So in industry, I spent most of my industry career at Canon with a brief interlude going to a startup. And I did medical affairs and regulatory affairs, and now I do AI software for Canon. I'm the director of regulatory for the healthcare IT part of Canon called Canon Medical Informatics.
So cool. You do so much. You also I don't know, you're just kind of an influencer and a networker and a teacher and a helper. So, thank you for all you do because you're super involved in a lot of the RAPS community and also just on the speaker circuit. So, are we going to hang out this year? Or are you going to, you'll be at RAPS? Yeah?
I hope so. Let's see. But
I would say you make keeping up a lot easier. following your LinkedIn and Slack posts and stuff, I'm like, I feel better informed. So thank you.
That's true.
well,
Yeah.
Jim said, I think we're all just trying to keep up. So yeah.
Just so trying. I'm trying so hard. First, we got to do our jokes. So Jay, what is your joke?
All right. So why don't giraffes make good regulatory consultants?
They're always sticking their neck out.
Well, I hadn't thought of that. That's good. Yeah, I'll save that for next time. Yeah,
Good.
everything is too high level, and it all goes over your head. And,
Like,
all right. What about zebras? Why don't zebras make good regulatory consultants?
they don't blend in. Well, are they?
They're black and white.
They blend in.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's all gray areas, right? What about edge cases? But they're all just black and white. Yeah. So yeah. So let's stick to humans. I mean, all the same problems, but the PowerPoints are better.
I feel like the animal jokes always do a little better on this, though. We had medical device one or medical ones last week. Those kind of went over well too. All right, Nilo, are you ready for? I'll do my joke.
Yeah, thanks.
What happens when you cross a crab with a cheetah? Things go sideways real fast.
I like that one.
That's good. Yeah.
Nyla, do you have one, or do you want to? Okay.
This week was truly a bit of a last minute one, but I did have some backups, so I had to go look them up real quick.
Oh, good. It's always good to have some spares. Yeah.
So, why did the astronaut break up with their boyfriend?
He wanted space.
Yeah. They wanted some space. That was it. Yeah.
They wanted some space.
Yeah.
I thought might be because boys went to Jupiter to get more stupid or something. How we used to say.
Gone with that would have been better for the kids. Which
yeah.
Our target, I don't know if you know this. Our target audience are Allison's daughters, and so
yeah, pretty much.
So.
I need jokes that I can share with my children. So thanks for making that. Though I'm not sure they totally understand what like regulatory consultants do or like, but I'll try it on them and I'll report back. So much going on this week, guys. And I feel like Nilo, there were a few things that you had put on last week's like doc that we share that I just skipped over, and I feel guilty because I feel like
No,
I
Vivek
didn't
was
give
a
you the
great
time, the
guest.
space.
Vivek was a great guest, and it was more important.
He was
to hear
amazing.
his stuff.
Okay. Do you want to? Well, let's start by saying happy birthday to Medical Device Amendments. Happy 50th birthday, dear friend. It is. I feel like Medical Device Amendments was enacted on this day 50 years ago. And it's pretty much the thing that has given all three of us jobs. So, yay, thanks. Happy you turned 50. Happy you're still around CDRH and medical device regulations. And there's some really cool posts. I think there was an event yesterday at FDA that Michelle Tarver spoke at. And it was just, I wish they had candles and a birthday cake, though, because that would have been
Cool.
kind of cool. Just saying. Let's go to can we skip to the bottom and talk about the new breakthrough that came out? Because I think that was super exciting. The Vesta Bladder Risk Stratify DX device, Nilo. I think you put that in last week.
Yeah, I put it in, but then I see, Jay, you added some more to it. But I think, honestly, it was a cool digital pathology prognostic test for bladder cancer. And it was, anything that kind of comes in with non-invasive ways to test for cancers or serious, like what your risk score may be, or just what we can do. Everyone's afraid of the robots and what AI, how AI can do things, but like this is part of the cool stuff that it really seems to have like really meaningful impact, and I thought it was very cool. Jay, it looks like you put a little bit more in here, and I got kicked out of the agenda, so I have to re-sign in. So if you want to take over and explain a little bit.
So
'cause I don't have
sorry.
my notes right in front of me, so give me a second.
Sure. I actually, so I didn't add to that one. I actually added to, like, there's another breakthrough. It's pathology week, I guess. So,
Yeah.
so there's another breakthrough that's kind of, well, it's not directly related, but it's the Spot Mass 10 test from Gene Solutions. That one got breakthrough. And that is one of these multi-cancer early detection tests that's for blood-based cancer screening. And it picks up things like pancreatic cancer. So it meets that unmet need. And so that one and Nilo, the one that you mentioned, they both show kind of just FDA engaging with AI-enabled diagnostics. The one you talked about uses existing H&E stains or H&E slides to kind of find more information, and then spot mass, blood test to test for cancer. Very, very, very promising technology. You see a lot of investor interest in it, actually. But also the bar for screening is always very high. I
Yeah,
think FDA has. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I agree. I think sometimes like it's tough for the FDA to differentiate between a direct diagnosis and a screening tool, and I love to see when we get things through that doctors will know the difference and they'll know how to use them and like what that works and when they listen to it. And I also think I think it sounds like the spot mass one is also within like the normal, it's like an add-on to the normal kind of paradigm of like you would already take these samples and you can do this again. Like I know that's the case for the HE pathology slides, is like you might have already taken that sample and this is going to make it better, rather than like doing a separate thing that's totally new and it's really hard to fit into the clinical workflow. So I like when I see those kind of things too.
Yeah. Take your
Very
existing
cool.
information and use it better.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, since it's pathology week, let's talk about the new PMAs, because I feel like there's been quite a few. And I don't know, I'm happy to chat. Or did you know about them, Jay?
First time
I don't
I'm
want to
seeing
put you on the
that,
spot. Okay. So there's two new de novos as well, but let's start with PMAs. And I did send a note, Nilo, to Josh Levent, who mentioned on because I was like, why, our question in the past couple weeks, Jay, has been like, why are all these pathology devices, they're all going like through for like a class 3 PMA, and not, some of them feel like they could be de novo. And he essentially mentioned, he's like, well, it's kind of different for all three of them, the previous ones that were approved. Some of them are based on the indications for use. Of course, it's like higher risk, and then other ones it was like they actually might get reclassified, but they're starting off as a PMA. So, but the two this week were P250027, which is the Gardant Liquid CDX by Guardant Health. Again, also NGS. So NGS Oncology Panel, it's a device used for qualitative detection of germline or somatic variants in one or more cancer-related genes. It's intended to be used in DNA or RNA isolation from human clinical specimens. The other one, also a P25, so submitted last year, P250020, which is the Bolotero Volume Plus Lidocaine by Mars North America. This was an approval for a subcutaneous and or supraperiosteal injection to improve volume deficit in the midface or to correct midface contour deficiencies in adults 22 or older. Improved volume deficit is like the new rebranding of like wrinkles and sunken cheeks. I like. Yeah, I'm going in to get my volume deficits improved. So. Anyway, congratulations to Bolotero Volume Lidocaine by Mars North America. There were no HDEs this past week, but yeah. Do you want to talk?
Well, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are all like filler injections PMAs?
Yes.
I don't think I
Yes.
realized that. That's like a pretty high bar for something that seems like a really common procedure these days. Interesting.
I mean, I think it's because of the fact that it's essentially an implanted something that usually will get bioresorbed, and you don't want. I've seen things go sideways fast with some of these. Back to my joke, but with some of the like fillers or implants that end up causing some sort of toxicity or like. I don't know, ages ago, I remember a file and it was like, they're like, oh, we did a sheep study and all of them where we implanted the device have tumors. I was like, that's not good. And so it was like, yeah, they're like, we're going to have to redesign the like change the formulation. And I'm like, you think? Yeah, like, I don't think this is going to fly with FDA. Anyway. So those are the two new PMAs, which is a lot of work. I think one of them only, again, I think it's probably one was a modular because it got approved pretty quickly. But let's talk about de novos because there's been a lot of chatter on LinkedIn about the two that were granted this week. And what I really liked seeing is FDA talking about them because it's protect and promote. Let's talk about the promote piece. And I think Julie Morabito mentioned, because her signature is on the de novo, but she even mentioned, like, she's like, I'm very proud of my team. Like, this was definitely an effort that also was like a partnership with BARDA, right? So this was for the Deep View AI system by Spectral MD, DN 250028. It is a software-aided adjunctive diagnostic device for use by healthcare providers in skin wound assessment. So pretty awesome. Like I liked their LinkedIn, FDA's LinkedIn page. They even promoted this on their own LinkedIn page and said one of the most critical decisions in burn wound management is determining healing trajectory. The Deep View AI system can help address this by providing clinicians with an objective assessment of whether a wound is likely to heal within 21 days with conservative treatment or whether it may require significant medical intervention. This capability can support providers in making earlier, more informed treatment decisions that can meaningfully impact patient outcomes. So just stoked. And Jay, like, you're kind of big in AI. What's your hot take on this? And imaging, like...
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I guess it uses just regular optical images. I mean, I wonder how they probably had to do a whole lot of testing on kind of a whole lot of different subgroups and wound stages. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I see more and more of these coming up now. I think kind of Derm AI was kind of struggled for a while, but I do see more and more of them coming up now.
For sure.
And
it's interesting that they had BARDA support.
Yeah, and I think I saw Alison Kumar posted this one too, and friend of the pod and friend of all of ours. And I know she was, I think, really involved with this when she was still at FDA, and then kind of helped them through the process on the other side. So I think that's cool to see something that, I know she always worked closely with BARDA stuff. And this is just like, I don't know, I went to the San Antonio burn hospital as a bioengineer forever ago, like when I was in college, and it was like a place where you could see where BioE's, their inventions and technology can be truly implemented, from tissue engineering to wound treatment, all that stuff, and to kind of, see how this can affect treatment regimen is, because I remember them telling me, and this is, a while ago now because it was college, how unpredictable burn wounds can be, and the fact that maybe they're not unpredictable anymore is kind of cool.
Yeah. I know, especially if you can, I mean, it makes sense with BARDA and, especially for a lot of people who are experiencing burn wounds, and if they're especially in the military, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the risks to health, and I was looking at the special controls because their letter went out pretty quickly. So they have 7 special controls. One of them does include data obtained from clinical performance validation testing must. So they do have clinical as one of the things that is a special control. It has to include sensitivity, specificity for device output, demonstrate improvement in device-aided users' diagnostic characterization of the indicated wound compared to the accuracy of unaided users in the intended patient population. So they had to do a lot of work here. Whenever I look at these letters and kind of try and read between the lines of what they had to do in order to get FDA to say yes, this wasn't an easy file. It doesn't look, but really exciting. I'm just, I love seeing stuff like this, especially when I'm AI is everywhere. Everyone keeps saying AI, and someone sent me a post that were the new keynote speakers are just going to be people walking up on a stage and being agentic or AI, and that they'll just walk off the stage. That's all that people need to say these days. But I'm
AI, yeah.
Exactly. And the speaker's going to be made out of a hologram AI. But then I'm I see stuff like this. I'm this is where it's used well. And I'm gives me hope. This is my anti-doom scrolling moment when I see stuff like this. So.
Yeah, something that's been popping up in AI de novo summaries is a special control on post-market surveillance. So you need to keep monitoring the device. I don't know if this one has it or not, but I've seen it a couple lately.
This one does not. Does it not? Yeah, and sometimes they'll even say either it has to show it in clinical testing, pre-market clinical testing, or post-market, so they can kick the can. Usually for the first de novo that gets the granting, they'll have to do the post-market piece. But that also gives me hope, right? When FDA's, maybe they feel uncomfortable saying just yes with everything they have, but if they're hey, we can ask for 6 months, a year, 2 years worth of data follow-up. I mean, it's a kind of pain in the butt for a lot of these companies that are okay, now I have to do kind of a post-market evaluation and send in my reports. But at the same time, I'd rather them get their foot in the door and get something that that can, be on the market and act as a predicate for other devices, right? So win-win. Do you want to talk about the second one? Who wants to take the second one?
I can take it at least to start.
Because this one's cardio, man.
Cardio.
This is your jam.
It's interesting because we're working as consulting with a couple of heart failure therapy type systems, and I'm actually really interested in this because this could be a really good monitor / endpoint tool, because it's a lot easier to use, and it seems like it was a pretty big the accuracy was really well, and the estimating PCWP non-invasively means that it is something that is lower burden on the study and lower burden on the hospitals, and if the FDA already kind of agrees with it being something that can be used. But anyway, sorry, I jumped into what it is.
Tell us what it is. Yeah.
So, de novo 250057. It's PCWP analysis software by CardioSense Inc. PCWP is pulmonary capillary wedge pressure. And the device allows for non-invasively at point of care measurement of this kind of biomarker, which more allows clinicians more precisely and proactively manage their heart failure patients. PCWP is like one of the big things that people look at, especially like quickly for hemodynamic measures in heart failure. Like you look at ejection fractions and other things probably more on direct diagnosis, but this is kind of one of those quick, are we doing okay kind of measures. And to be able to do it right away, and also like I think it's going to be cool for like monitoring for operations. It said
Yeah.
right heart catheterizations, probably some LVAD type work and other things. So I'm like, this seems like it's going to produce and provide a lot of high quality data in during operations and kind of monitoring of patients. And then what I also I saw the headline and what it did, and then also doing a quick look at like what they put into it. It was interesting, it's got AI, it's a software, it's a medical device. It said it was breakthrough, so it's one of the successes of a breakthrough device that got through the FDA, which
Yeah.
is something they're trying to promote. And it got a predetermined change control plan accepted.
It's like they checked all the
They
boxes.
said, hey, what's the biggest hype train we can do for FDA? And it got all of them. So,
Let's go
these
big.
real world,
Let's go
these are real
big.
world data, probably. You know,
Bingo.
yeah, they got the bingo card. Um, but again, this is like, I I like some of the tools that aren't. It's a perfect de novo, right? It's class two. It's mid risk. It's going to provide really useful information. It makes things better and easier for patients and physicians, and it's not necessarily like gonna, it's not the cure for cancer, but it really might meaningfully help a ton of people.
People, oh my gosh, like when you see stuff like this, and I'm like, yay for patients. I don't know, I'm stoked. This is, and it's cute. It's like a cute device. I don't know.
I can see the picture. I'll have to pull it up.
It's like it's cute. Anyway, that's maybe we should start another YouTube channel and like rate my device how cute it is. But Doctor, yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. Dr. Azar she's the regulatory person for CardioSense. CardioSense Inc. And I think she's former FDA too. I was like, maybe we should have her on here talking about it. But I'm always very excited to see like who's submitting these, because Trudy Estridge from Spectral MD did the DeepView AI. And then we had Dr. Azar doing this other one. And it's just also like, what a feather in your cap. When you get these de novos, it just feels so good, because the de novo pathway is like less likely to succeed, right? I always tell companies like 510Ks, most of them get through. PMAs, most of the time they get through. De novos, like still hovering around 50%. And so like when you get that through and you can have this like, negotiation for a class 2 status for your device, and I don't know, and the FDA kind of sees the light and they agree. I don't know, just huge win. Congratulations, Trudy and Dr. Azar. With that said, let's so I'm jumping around today, but there's based on the numbers, so the new Medufa 5 progress report's out, and if Brendan O'Leary ever listens to us, which I mean, I don't know why he would. I hope he does. Oh my gosh. I'm going to tag him in like, here's who we talked about today, because he's just, I'm such a fan. And his like site, he digests like all of these things for us to make sense of it. So, if you're not following his website, you should. But Jay, I'm going to kick it to you. What is the progress report? Why does Congress do this?
Oh, well, I guess to see it was from the industry side, it's really useful to see how is you're putting in these user fees, sort of where are they going, and how it gives you some kind of bar for, okay, if I put this thing into FDA, when's it going to come out? I mean, that's so When I was at the agency, I underestimated how important that is to industry just for planning purposes, kind of the not just the time it takes, but the predictability. Sometimes if something comes out too early, you're not even prepared to market it. So it's not even helpful that it came out that early. So it's really not just about fast clearance or fast authorization, but like predictable. And so this data
Yeah.
helps with that.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like what I found is sort of interesting. It's very lengthy, right? This document, and they have to send this to Congress twice a year. Is it? Or I can't remember. Like, this is part of the user fee amendments, but that they have to say like, here's how we're doing, and here's how we're using our money. Oh, bless you, Nilo. Um, he sneezed. Thank you for muting yourself when you did that. It looked, yeah. But there have been, since fiscal year 2026 began on October 1st of 2025, there have been 1,766 510Ks that have been accepted. There have been 22 de novos and 45 original PMAs and panel track supplements. What I find interesting about this is it feels like the de novos are down, right? Like the number that have been submitted. And there's a lot of changes with funding, and there's just so much going on at FDA and outside in industry. And it's always interesting to me to see like this seems like the I don't want to say canary in the coal mine, but like sometimes you figure out like what's the trend based on what's going on in the world. It's hard to extract too much information out of this. Maybe people are just tired. But it's also possible that, everything that's going on in the world has kind of driven down the numbers of submissions we're seeing. I also didn't look last year.
For, roughly, so what's people's appetite for risk? I would say.
Yeah. Very low. I don't feel risky right now, guys. I just want to stay at home. House in tinfoil. Okay, so thanks, Medufa 5. You're rocking it.
I will say, to Jay's point, I use this stuff all the time because every client we get does not believe me that a 510K is going to take 5 months and not 90 days. I'm like, there's a pause in the middle. Here's the data that supports this. And I update our average time and within the OHTs too. I really like how, like you said, Allison, it's a big report. I really like that they break it down by OHT too, in a lot of things, because going to OHT 8 is different than going to OHT 2. And it's the device complexity, what they look at, the number of reviewers they have, and honestly, staff shortages too. Some of the groups have been decimated worse than others. So I think it's really, I'm happy that they put out data like this, because I guess they have to, because it's part of the negotiation, but it is nice that they do it to the level of detail that they do.
And one interesting thing I pulled out of it, there's all this FDA in the news, of course, and everyone's first question is, how does that impact my review time? And it may impact other things, but you see the times for 510Ks is actually fairly constant, the FDA time. But the big variability is in how long does the sponsor take to respond to the AINN letters. And I think that really tells you that, okay, if you're on the company side, you need to really, really be disciplined. That's where you gain or lose time. It's not in the FDA time, but it's in your time to kind of, get as few questions as possible and answer them as quickly as possible. So.
Do you think that it is a signal of how complicated the 510Ks are, but also sometimes it's how silly are the questions the FDA is asking? It definitely takes longer because sometimes you have to go through an SIR meeting or address things that maybe you didn't need to. And so I think there is a level of it's not always on the client's or the industry side of how long it takes to respond, because hey, you guys have changed the rules and all of a sudden I have to go do another biocomp test or redo my chemical characterization. That's going to take longer than just a clarification call. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems. There's no really good metric of how well did you do with a 510K. So there's so many variables, and yeah.
Do you feel like there's been a lot of conversation around the use of AI to generate deficiencies, and that they are pretty intense? Some of these questions, I don't know if Elsa is so great at benefit risk analysis of what's the how relevant or how important is this question in the grand scheme of things. Do you have any thoughts on it, Jay? Like, it feels like the pendulum keeps swinging, but yeah,
I was surprised when I learned, like, when we were, I don't know if it's still called Image 2K, but, there was Image 2K when I think all of us were at the agency. And I always just assumed that Elsa searched that and it could search all the submissions and it would look at all the trends across everything and spit out deficiencies. And actually, then I learned it's only the file that you submitted. It only looks at that. And I suppose there's a limited amount it can do with that if it's not trained on broadly on kind of your device area. So in that
yeah,
sense, I haven't. You'll see a lot more deficiencies than I do, but I think it's not that different right now from a human, I think.
yeah. That's it. I don't know what you guys had. So we were all kind of in different OHTs, right? But I remember the benefit of having a shared list of like, here are deficiencies for like the very specific devices that we're reviewing. And so it was a way that we could all kind of remain consistent and say, okay, we're trying to make sure that what we've asked your predicate, we're asking of you. And if that's the case where you're only essentially putting in your current file, it seems like, yeah, there might be, I've just noticed longer deficiency letters. Maybe it's because I'm just getting worse at being a consultant. That's also, it's also a possibility.
Multiple things can be true at once.
Yeah.
No, I think what Elsa is like trained in 4-part harmony, but I think it actually ends up being like very confusing sometimes. Like, I think the deficiencies we get often seem much worse than they actually are. So for, the 6 people or the 2 people listening, use the clarification call, because like, you didn't always have to. It was pretty clear, especially if you had a reviewer who's been doing it for a while. It was like, you knew exactly what they wanted to respond to, and now it's kind of gummed up in the consistency because they might have to ask the question, and the way they ask it, they want it to be the same for everyone. But in the generalization, it's really hard to know what the FDA is actually looking for from you. So always take advantage of the 10-day calls for anything you get.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially if you can get, I even tell companies, I'm like, try and find something that you need clarification on, because there's something in there that you probably don't fully understand what they're asking for. And hey, maybe there are times where you're like, I don't want to ask, right? But then there are many times it's like, we really should try to make sure that if we're going to put together a protocol for an animal study or some sort of test that we're going to need to run in a submission issue request, let's make sure we're actually putting together the right thing and have that 10-day call to discuss it. So, and you also get to, talk with your lead reviewer. We got a deficiency not long ago that was like, it said fill in the page number here. Like, essentially it was just kind of like a generated deficiency that was like, they didn't find the page numbers, so it was like, what happened here, and not to call them out and be like, you guys aren't paying attention. It was like, I'm sure that you had a reason to write this deficiency and give it to us, but we really need to understand what is it we're supposed to be looking at, because that's really important as part of the 4-part harmony. So anywho, can we talk about
4-part harmony really expand, like when I was there, we were writing our own things by hand, right? And then
Yeah.
some of it became templated and more templated and AI. And now that 4th part is like sometimes a mile long.
This is what you need. Yeah. So for folks who don't know, 4-part harmony is how folks are supposed to write deficiencies. And it's also, there's a guidance on like how to write deficiencies and then also how to respond to deficiencies. And you're also supposed to kind of use this 4-part harmony to respond to deficiencies. So it's like what you gave, what's missing, what they need, and why they need it. And so if you have those 4 things, and if something's missing, if they don't really tell you why they need it or what what you need to give, definitely ask for that on the 10-day call. Otherwise, it's like you're kind of shooting in the dark. So, let's talk about recognition. Let's recognize. FDA has recognized more than 60 not new standards, but there's new standard recognitions There were a lot of dental, so your peeps, Nilo, or your original stomping ground, and then some cardiovascular. So all your friends are busy.
Just me checking off stuff.
You're like, nope, that one's done. That one's done. And then there were 2 biocomp and 1 anesthesia. Anesthesiology group. But the biocomp one was very interesting for many reasons. And our dear friend Christy Katzmeyer-Ployce did post something about the agency's recognition of ISO 10993-1, which is the 2005 version. 2025. I just went back in time. The FDA is not recognizing clause 6.9 on the biological risk estimation as an input to determine biological safety and consideration of severity and probability of occurrence of harm. And they are also not recognizing material history use of comparison to consumer products. And this is in clause 6.5.11.3. And it's only to other medical devices. So if that's for like low risk intact skin contacting devices, which we see in their guidance document, the ISO 10993 skin, there's like an appendix G, I think, or attachment G. So anyway, I found that very interesting. And yeah, I'm excited to go to, there's going to be some conferences where I know that they're going to be talking about this, and I'm excited to learn. Jay, do you want to talk about PCCPs? Because that's been such a hot topic, and I feel like the FDA is cranking out more of them. So yeah, what's the new article that you read?
Yeah, I guess, but not too many more. So JAMA Health, that was this week, I think, May 22nd, so a little more than a week ago. But sorry, it was this week. Yeah. All right. So JAMA this week, they had this health forum letter, just kind of with data on PCCPs. I would love to see more actually industry authors on articles like this. Right now, they're kind of all in academia, and the PCCP adoption rate is still pretty low. I think they had it at 5.4% of AI-enabled medical devices. So it's growing. I mean, it's not zero anymore, but it's still low. I mean, 5% is less than I would expect given kind of how long the program has been going now. And when they describe it, they say it's kind of unknown barriers to doing it. And I think I can see some barriers, and I'd be curious what you all your take is on that right now. But I mean, there are there are reasons to do one. There are good reasons not to do one. It's really how far out can you plan your roadmap, and many companies can't, like
Yeah.
especially with software actually, which is what the PCCP was designed for. But things change so fast, right? You have a doctor wants a feature, another doctor wants another feature, and you don't know where you'll be a year from now. And so it's hard to kind of give up that much optionality ahead of time. That's one issue. So yeah.
Yeah. I found that I don't think FDA is super consistent yet about like how the PCCP needs to look or what it needs to say. I'm really hopeful that they'll come out with, I don't know, maybe update the eStar to like, here's exactly the format or things that we want you to have in there or not have in there. I mean, I've definitely been told you have way too many changes, like reduce the number of changes that you're offering. I've heard you have, like too much information, too much detail, take out all the detail. And then I've had other reviewers be like, you have no detail in here. We need more detail. And I'm like, okay. So it feels kind of like we're whack-a-mole a bit with some of these. Like, let's submit something and find out what FDA says. But yeah.
We haven't done a lot of them. And the one that we did, I almost treated like a special 510K, which was weird. Like it wasn't until I was like almost done with it, but I was like, oh, here's our design control requirements, here's our changes, and here's how we're still going to fit within the design control requirements. And they were like, yeah, that's kind of how to approach this. But then I was like, well, why didn't I just do a special 510K with all, there's so much extra effort in, and we ended up not getting it. Like at the end, there was like too much that we needed. The company wasn't ready to do.
To like pull it?
Yeah, that we ended up pulling it because like the evidence needed, we just kind of went, if one thing changes here, this is no longer beneficial. And that's kind of, we pull it. It's kind of, Jay, to your point, like how far ahead can we really plan to where, does it just make sense to submit the evidence and wait? And we were looking at it for like stuff that could have been special 510K, so it's like wait the 30 days, which it made more sense then. So.
Yeah. I did get confirmation that they're gonna, like, once you have your PCCP and if it's minor changes, you can do a special, which maybe that's already been well known and established. But I think if it's something that can be dealt with through like design controls and that you're just gonna be making modifications to the PCCP, then you can submit a special. Hopefully it's a little faster.
So you can change
But I'm with
PCCP under a special. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but you can't add a PCCP under a special. Yeah, you have to add it under traditional. But I think I remain optimistic because that's in my nature, but that I really feel like everyone should have a PCCP and like moving forward,
Right.
even if you don't have an AI enabled device, because it protects you. You don't have to make the changes, right? You're not marrying yourself to these changes. It's like, here's hypothetical situations or very possible situations or ones that we'd like to make sure that once we get clearance, we can update things very quickly to kind of reduce the likelihood that people are going to get clearance for something that they're never going to sell. And they know they have to submit another 510K to actually get the go-to-market device, right? And it's like, okay, if we know here's what we got cleared, and if we want to make a material change, we don't have all the biocom testing for that right now because we've done this on, all our testing is on a prototype, let's say, or not a prototype, but like, what is it? Like you haven't scaled up. It's going to just be like limited launch of X number of devices. But once we decide to do the additional testing, then it's something that we can like actually do through the PCCP and get to market. So, dude, Nilo, you need your own office. Like, who's this bro behind you? There's just like someone walking around in his shorts.
First off, it's hot in here. Second off, I should share my office with his name's Nick Kimenow. He runs a great focus group company, does industrial stuff and does really good focus work for like non-alcoholic beers and whirlpool devices and things like that. He's a good guy, but I only ever have one of my employees in here at one time, so there's an extra chair, so it's nice. But yeah,
I love it.
Now is to blur the background like every other teleprompter.
No, they want to see. They want to see what's on my bedside table. Yeah, which is a plant.
Anyway. Years to get my own office at FDA. I remember I was doubled up for a long time, and there would always be these new people from OIVD. I was in radiology, so I would be paired with an IVD person. I actually learned a lot that way. So.
Yeah.
I
the chair side consult in your office.
I always had my own office, and I left right when they were about to make us start like grouping together and like
you're like, I'm out
and stuff. I was like, I'm out of here. I came here solely for my own office.
I was so sad with sorry, totally random change of topic, but like when people it's your office, right? You decorate it, you you make it yours. And during Doge and the rifts and everything last year, there were people that were just taking everything off their walls, everything that was personal they were getting out, because when people got riffed, they weren't even allowed in the building to like get their personal items. And so they were just like, I'm gonna take, like, I can't remember who it was, but they were like taking they had like running medals on the wall behind them, and like they're like, nope, gotta take it all home, because like I'll have to ask somebody to like pull it off the walls for me and like put it in a box. And I was like, that is so sad. So anyway, maybe a nice segue to hiring. Do you want to talk about that, Nilo?
Yeah, this was on last week. It was interesting. We've been talking about it on several of these podcasts that like FDA is still hiring, and it's sometimes really tough to find who is hiring in which group. But April Marone is direct hiring for the TAP program, which I thought was interesting because, Jay, Allison, like when we were at FDA, to get involved with those types of things, generally it was like a special detail or someone who had some experience got to like go do that, and then they were looking for people to directly come work for the TAP program. So I thought that was interesting and kind of a bummer from my experience of like that was a perk to go work for that.
Yeah.
It's like you got to work yourself up to it. But for people looking for work, go take that opportunity, because that's like
heck yeah,
to see the coolest projects. So I did repost it and things like that. So I wanted to let people know that that's a
I've heard
possibility.
it's so like, especially because you have to be there now, right? You cannot work remotely. But the thing that I heard, little T, is that people cannot apply to those internally, right? Like you cannot apply from other centers or other offices. Like most of them have to be external hires because they don't want to. They're trying to increase the body count right now. They're trying not to like say move things around and then there's an opening over here, there's a detail and then it might close down. It's like, no, we're hiring and it has to be someone from outside.
Gotcha.
Which I was like, that's kind of a bummer because there's some folks that are like, I'm burnt out in my current role. Like I'd really like to go transfer over to another group, and I don't think they're welcoming that as much.
There was always kind of a problem because you'd have people on detail and you couldn't backfill the detail, so you ended up with like artificial shortages. But like, I'd rather them fix that problem than do it this way. Also, like, I get like we definitely lose talent at the FDA by forcing everyone to be in the office, but being in the office like part-time, like hybrid schedule in DC, like I learned so much, and Jay, you're kind of like so much. Like there is some advantage, especially when you're hiring people directly out of school, because most people who work at the FDA are going from, you know, undergrad, graduate programs, PhDs to FDA. It's like you just learn how to like work a little bit. Sometimes it's just like cadence of like a 9-to-5 job is necessary, and I think it's, I don't know. I don't hate the idea that people have to like be in DC because I felt like a lot of consistency in decision making was because I was in the office and could go, hey, Matt Trachtenberg, what did you say about this about your stent product compared to what I'm saying about my stent product? And it was we talked about it face to face. So
what did he say?
The worst.
Just kidding.
Just way too many questions.
We gotta have him on here. I think I asked him, and he said yes, and then he was like ghosted me after that. So maybe it was like all right.
We did skip one thing up higher in the agenda, but I think it's like kind of an important one because everyone deals with it. And I think, Allison, you put it on here. New guidance on human factors.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. Do you want to go for it?
I was gonna say, I just think this is from what I read, this is the finalization of the draft that's been out for like 4 years. But we have had multiple reviewers give us extremely inconsistent feedback on whether or not we could use the draft. Like even within the same thing of like, you can't reference the draft guidance because it's not in place, but you have to use this exact format of your URA that is in this draft guidance.
That is in the draft.
Yeah. So like, I'm very
it's our current thinking, but it's not our current thinking if we don't want it to be current.
And they did make us go back to like some stuff from the 2016. They like made us change things and like do some approach stuff. So I'm like very happy to see the inconsistency kind of go, okay, we can finally rely on this. And then I did see some of the, I wasn't sure from your comments, Allison, or were there updates? I haven't had a chance to like dig in from the draft to the final. Like, did they make?
I haven't looked. We should do a compare because those are so fun to look at.
Jay, maybe.
But
I don't know if anyone's done it.
Yeah, I think the big thing was. Right, come on, Brendan.
Yeah, get on.
Brendan, are you listening? FDA introduces human factor submission categories. So instead of treating all devices similarly, FDA now recommends categorizing submissions based on whether there are critical tasks, whether the user interface changed, and whether use-related risks changed. And which makes, like, duh, right? Like, FDA has always been really, like, the URA is super important, and then talking about critical tasks, and the guidance gives you some idea on sort of like the level of human factors documentation you submit. I kind of think it's like the human factors guidance similar to like what we see with cybersecurity and software guidance documents, right? Because there's usually like based on these criteria or these categories, like here's what we want to see. And so it is kind of putting that risk-based framework in there. I don't know, historically, guys, if a company was like, we've done all this human factors testing, and I'd be like, don't submit it. don't send it in. Because unless it's like a requirement or like a special control, I'd be like, why are you sending it?
Yeah.
So
If it wasn't home use, we've tried to hold it. But the FDA, I would say over the last maybe through COVID, because of so much having home use options and having telehealth be across like all the branches, I feel like the review teams got used to like having human factors in all of their submissions. And then we ended up being required to have human factors for like general surgery devices, like stuff that is not novel. And it's like, well, med school should have taught you how to like make an incision.
hold something or
So
I mean, I think I tell companies, I'm like, well, we might not submit it to FDA in a pre-market submission. It's still really good to have it. You should always do, like, this is something that every company should do to make sure that people are using the ding dang thing correctly and, or like, you know, reducing the amount of risk as much as possible. But I had, I'm gonna shout out Benjamin Summercorn because he was a reviewer ages ago on one of my files. And he was great because he would like, we could talk about, you know, do we actually need to submit that? And he's like, oh, I saw some reference that there's usability in your da 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 da. And I said, actually, we have it, but I don't think it's necessary to demonstrate substantial equivalence to our predicate because of the following reasons and our predicate. And he's like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. And so he was like, yeah, don't send it in. He's like, I don't even want to, you know, like, they don't need it if they don't need it. And so it was like just a nice conversation. And ultimately, the company had done it. They had done all the right things, but it kept another cook out of the kitchen from an FDA side. Do you have to do any of that stuff, Jay? Or are you just like, ew?
Not so much. A little bit we did when I've mostly worked in imaging, so sometimes with the
Yeah.
hardware you do with the software, it's less.
gotcha, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One other thing I had on the list here from last week, but I think, Jay, you kind of added great commentary to it, was just that right before our meeting last week, we had gone through Macquarie had left, and then all of the other leads of all the other centers were also leaving. But, we primarily focus on med devices, and Michelle Tarver, who we are a Michelle Tarver stan public, podcast here. She survives. She's still there, so that's fantastic in my opinion. But Jay, I wanted to
Me too.
hear your thoughts on this.
Sure. I mean, I know a lot of people are, okay, what happens, because you see it in the news, okay, the commissioner changed or somebody changed or the leader changed. And, I'm just thinking back to when I was at FDA, there were a good 6 levels of managers between myself and the people very high up. And how, I'm not saying it doesn't affect the agency, but the effects tend to be longer term and, maybe impact devices that are more around the edges of kind of what's possible. Whereas if you're kind of like I am, like you do solid class 2, you see less impact. And so people, I think I was talking somewhere, people like, what advice do you have to AI software manufacturers to deal with this? And I think it was just just keep going, and it's not so much who's in charge, it's really just don't underestimate your validation burden. Build validation that's robust. It covers all the different populations and subgroups who are going to use your device. And if you do that, it kind of, the rest, just ignore the noise and just kind of do your thing. Don't assume that anything's permanent. Like there might be a change from like, okay, less pre-market to more post-market scrutiny, but then it might come back. So, the pendulum goes and, swings. And I think I was at FDA, I think through a couple of different administrations, but, don't get too fixed on, okay, it's like this because it might come back.
Right.
I think it's great,
Yeah.
great advice too, because I think, the
Same.
product development process remains the same. Like, make a good product, prove it works,
Yeah.
document it.
The regulatory is kind of a, okay, regulatory. The real point is to make a product that, works on patients and serves them well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other fun things that you're experiencing, Jay, in the world of AI and imaging and stuff? Because I always feel like you got your fingers on the pulse.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's been interesting to watch the kind of cardiac software space grow. Especially, it's become very, a lot of development, a lot of interesting developments, a lot of interesting, ambitious indications coming out. So that cardiac software space is just really heating up, it seems like, and yeah.
So I'm always fascinated by like which OHTs or like which fields kind of embrace new tech and kind of run with it. And sometimes it has to do with the review teams and their sort of open-mindedness of and the flexibility of like, okay, yeah, we can do this. We can do this safely. It also has something to do with like the disease state, like the risk and the patient populations. It also has to do with like where's funding, right? And reimbursement, because that can also like influence like, hey, there's a lot of money going into this type of tech. And so that's where we're going to see a greater growth for, in this case, cardiovascular. So yeah, I feel like OHT 8, OHT 2, like those two, which is for people listening and they're like, what the hell does that mean? Yeah, it's it's the radiology group, and OHT 2, of course, is the cardiovascular.
Yeah,
So
those who are the early adopters. They have the most, I think, AI, ML, and
yeah,
clearances. I think they have the most PCCPs also. Yeah, and radiology
yeah,
is tech heavy and tech friendly. It's native digital, so there's a lot of training data out there, and
Makes sense.
they're just culturally, I think radiology just adopts technology.
I think to the cardio thing, one of the things I noticed recently, I'm curious because of your work in space and imaging, I felt that the quality and technology around the firm, like the cameras are better. You can make better, smaller, tiny cameras because the software and the image processing is so much better. So like, and I feel like that's leading to all these cool things in like intravascular cardiology stuff, like what you can put on a catheter, and then like, oh, now that I can see things, I can do so much more. Yeah, it's
yeah.
very cool.
Like ultrasound, like putting ultrasound in unique places, or even yeah, the imaging that you can do, especially because we can miniaturize so many things now. That's like, oh, it's so cool. I don't know. I love
I
it.
always loved imaging because it touches every specialty,
Yeah.
almost every specialty. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so I have my other podcast. You're not my only boo, Nilo. But with Blue Stock Talk, I always ask a question like, what's your favorite technology, or like that has like improved your life or the life of someone you loved? And like one of the first people was like imaging, just like imaging in general, like CT. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense because like we like being able to look inside someone's body or like get an idea of like really what's going on without having to cut them open, like so important. Like seems like such a like another oh yeah no duh moment. So I actually found my mom. I live in San Diego and my parents live in San Diego, and I got a box of all of my old stuff dropped off at my house, and inside is my baby book with an ultrasound of me and this is like almost 50 years ago, almost as old as medical devices being regulated, and it's terrible. And I'm like, I'm so glad that ultrasound has improved over the past many years, because I was like, I can't see anything. So anyway, happy notes. Maybe I'll post it. I'll add a little picture and on this post. Jay, we're at time. How do people find you?
On LinkedIn, I think is the easiest. Yeah.
You rock. And thank you for, again, all you do and all the teaching and education and just keeping us all wrapped up. So
Thank you so much.
all right. I'll see you everybody next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Hold on, rewind. What did they say? Allison and Nilo just winging away. Regs and guidance, we'll try our luck. Just two folks out here trying to keep up.